I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage in Southern California. So today, what we're going to do, we're going to be focused on a Silver Shadow. This is a 73 Silver Shadow with, I think, 3,200 miles. No, sorry, it is now up to 4,800 miles. It's almost worn out. So this is a pretty rare car to have that low mileage. We're going to do a service. I guess now we can do some of the service work on top. I'm going to go grab some oil so we can put some oil back in the car. So if you put too much oil in these things, sometimes it likes to blow it out. So it's you put it in where it says right here, important, oil filter element to be changed after every 6,000 miles. That's that mileage number. This thing has a little spring tab, and this AC hose is not built right. So we will start with 8 quarts. And on this car, since it has a catalytic converter, I'm not using the high zinc oil. I'm using just the regular GTX Castrol 2050. Even though this car will never need to pass smog, for it to be imported, it had to pass DOT. And for some reason, they saw fit to put a catalytic converter on this car. It's also got an air pump. And you can see it's got a little, well, that's not it. There's probably a charcoal canister. I think it's on the other side. They added it. Yeah, it's running right up there. That's not factory. A lot of cars came in the 80s, especially that were gray market cars, so they had to get them to pass some sort of emission standards. Plus, the DOT, Department of Transportation, required that it had additional safety provisions. And one of them that was really important, which was really, I saw a lot of butcher work, they had to have additional bars inside the doors in case the car got hit in the door. So they added braces on a lot of cars, and I actually saw Ferraris and Italian cars with these really hacked up doors. It's really pathetic. Air pump is this thing right here. That pumps air into the exhaust system to dilute it. This is the air conditioning compressor. That's a different air pump, and that actually pumps Freon, not air. Now I just made a mess. So remember that cool tool that we used on the drain plug? I'm going to get a wrench, and I'm going to show you how we can use it for its second purpose. This is the radiator cap. See how it drops right in there? And this, you can just unscrew it with that. Now it's important when you tighten it, you don't over tighten it because it's a big size wrench. But I've seen a lot of these caps at the outside, all those little, nice little hand grip spots are all broken off from people using big giant pliers on them. Nothing better than the proper tool. We'll just add some water to that cooling system. Typically you don't have to add antifreeze unless it looks, it's good to look at that. It's got a nice green tint, so I'm happy with that. We just topped it up. You bring it right up to that little seal. Now if you're astute and you're paying attention, you can see there's a little coolant leak here. Coolant will usually calcify like that, and what has happened is this tank has been repaired at one time or another, and they fill this up with solder, and it's got a slight leak under it. Fortunately, that's above the coolant level. This tank is designed to have a space up here. That's why it's called an expansion tank, because the water, typically I don't use the wrench to tighten them, I just use my hand. The water will get hot and it'll want to expand. And if you have no place for it to go, it'll find some place, because water does not compress like the air. Okay, so there are some other items we're supposed to do when we're above here. It talks about tightening the exhaust manifold bolts. Now the exhaust manifold, if you want to look down here in that hole, let me get my pointer here. Okay, there's a manifold bolt. Okay, there are 8 on each manifold, top and bottom. Those are important to tighten And it's most important on 75 and up cars because their exhausts, they changed them to a Y style instead of just one long tube. And they get really hot, they expand, and then they cool, and they shrink, and back and forth, and back and forth, and the bolts will loosen up. It's real bad on, like I said, 75 and up cars. I always put a wrench on them or a long socket. The Shadow 2s were really bad about it. You had to do that every service, and I've seen them where they've fallen out. They get so loose. And a good symptom for you to notice during your test drive is when the car is cold, you start it up, and it sounds like there's a spark plug missing, or a tapping, a loud noise. And when it gets warm, it's quiet. What's happened is the manifold is expanded and everything's tightened up. Real important. Valve cover gaskets. Here's what I use to get to those. They need a little cinch. There are 3 bolts that hold them. They're kind of like a castle nut. You can see that right there. You should get the right size socket. It's a 7/16. So let's go ahead. You see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that was loose. Half a turn at least. So we'll just cinch that up, and there's 3 of them. So we'll get the other one that's down in here.
But there was no oil leak below to give you that clue.
Well, there is. If you look at the cylinder head, right here, let me get my pointer. See my pointer? See, it's got residue here, so that's seepage. They weren't leaking. They weren't loose enough for it to leak oil, but it's starting to seep. And the original ones are cork, and after time, cork will dry out and split. This one's a little more difficult to get to. I can't see it yet. Oh, and there's somebody. Oh, there's a brake line in the way. I'm going to have to get a wrench on that one. Uh-oh. Let's see if I can get in there. Down here. You have to see it to get to it. Oh, there it is. You guys probably can, and of course it's very loose. On later cars, after the Shadows, these are like 3/4 of an inch instead of 7/16, and you get a bigger nut, and people tend to over tighten. And they went to a later cars. A lot of the replacement gaskets are a neoprene, and then they put spacers in the inside under the valve cover. Tighten this other side now. And what happens is that spacers, once you bottom out, you can't retighten them anymore. And the neoprene sounded like a better idea, but they leak too.
Hey, Ronnie, what size were the exhaust manifold bolts?
Excuse me?
What size are the exhaust manifold bolts?
Hey, Yuki. Good to see you.
Hey,
The exhaust manifold bolts are a 1/2 inch head. Okay. And from underneath, it's best to get them with a long extension and a swivel, except for that left one on the left side. That you got to reach up in there and get a long wrench on. And you do that when they're cold. So don't let them get warm because you won't get them as tight as they need to be. There's that. Okay.
Is the vibration of the engine?
Well, and the cork relaxes. And they're made by Rolls-Royce. Is that bad? Oh, I heard some chuckling. That's a good thing. So, so we also want to tighten all the hose clamps. Oh, somebody has done this, so it's not friendly. Sorry. For the cooling system. That's part of the service. All right, so here's one. Just a little cinch to make sure they're not loose. This one's going to be buried. All right. There it is. Oh, see, now somebody was really brilliant. See where they put that hose clamp? How are you going to tighten that? Don't get me started. Now I'll show you how you tighten that one. You use a special screwdriver. But an astute technician would have put it so you could reach it with a screwdriver out here, okay? Same with this one. Typically, I'll make it so you can get it through here, right? These ones up front, you're just kind of screwed no matter what. And this one is, might be able to get it with a stubby. This, by the way, is a stubby. You check your belts. You look for cracks and that kind of stuff. You check that they're not loose. If you got old belts on there and they're somewhat secure, don't mess with them. If you over tighten them, they could split and you cause problems. New belts, you tighten pretty good usually, depending on what they're turning. Here's the lower radiator hose on this side. Someone was using their brains on this. You see it? You see it?